Hey soldiers, U.S. payrolls have been overstated by at least 1.1 million jobs. That jobs picture is not as rosy as we've been led to believe. Now the question is, why is the Fed still actively raising rates if they are in possession of data that calls into question these jobs numbers? In fact, they're not only in possession of the data, we're going to show you that they're actually compiling the more accurate data. So let's jump right into this because this isn't good. Because if the Fed is still actively carrying on tightening or rate increases, knowing full well that the job situation in America is not as rosy as we've been led to believe, then we got a problem. And let me say this. On this channel, we have reported extensively about the employment and unemployment situation in the country. We have encouraged you not to listen to what the media says about the unemployment rate because they are reporting the U3 rate from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, when in fact the U6 rate is a more all-encompassing figure and total picture of the situation, more so than the U3 rate. Now we find out that there's a disparity between the household survey and the establishment survey of unemployment. So in order to go through this, stick with me here because this is big. If you're not getting the proper data, there's no way that you can do your due diligence properly on how to prepare for economic cycles in America. Okay, so you're being led to believe something that is not true and that could harm you. So let's go through and figure out what is accurate. First of all, let's figure out what the difference is between the household survey and the establishment survey. For starters, the household survey is put together by the U.S. Census Bureau. The household portion of the Employment Situation Report is conducted by the U.S. Census Bureau, which surveys some 60,000 American households during the week of the 12th of each month as part of its current population survey. In addition to determining the employment status of the individuals in each surveyed household, which it classifies as employed, unemployed, or not in the civilian labor force, the census collects data on their demographic profiles, including race, Hispanic origin, age, sex, etc. Now, let's move over to the establishment survey. That data is collected by the Bureau of Labor Statistics as part of its current employment statistics survey. So we got two organizations, two agencies out there doing their own measurements of this data. Now, as far as the establishment survey, it incorporates the payroll records of some 144,000 non-farm establishments and government agencies, covering workers at some 554,000 individual work sites, in addition to determining the number of people employed at the surveyed location. As of the payroll period, including the 12th of each month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics collects data on the number of hours worked, earnings, and the industries in which individuals are employed at the surveyed organizations. Okay, so Bureau of Labor Statistics, Census Bureau, taking two different measurements of this job picture. Now, if I'm a savvy politician, I can just not only look at the U3 rate, which is always going to be lower than the U6 rate coming out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but I can bounce around and see which one is the lowest between the establishment survey and the household survey. And I can play a little game of obfuscation that tricks you into believing that the situation is more rosy than it is. Zero Hedge has done a tremendous amount of reporting on this, going all the way back to July of 2022. You got to understand now, the period that we're talking about is the period from March 2022 through June 2022. We're going to look at that particular slice of time because that's what we have the data for right now. There's a lag in this data, so we won't have later data until next year sometime. But that report cited, quote, estimates by the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia indicate that the employment changes from March through June of 2022 were significantly different in 33 states and the District of Columbia compared with current state estimates from the Bureau of Labor Statistics Current Employment Statistics Survey that we went over. That, again, is that establishment survey. Early benchmark estimates indicate higher changes in 4 states, lower changes in 29 states in the District of Columbia, and lesser changes in the remaining 17 states. Now, why is the Fed even involved here? We got 4 agencies, okay? Well, there's a problem. The problem is that to successfully publish a report within days after any given month ends, the Bureau of Labor Statistics report gives up in accuracy what it makes up for in speed. Far more accurate reports are available elsewhere. They just come with a big lag. So, these news agencies, these politicians, they want the data right now. And that's something I've always said about this channel. We're not interested in being first. We're interested in being accurate and walking people through these complex issues in a very accurate way. So the Fed has come in and they issue a quarterly report. They're saying our estimates incorporate more comprehensive, accurate job estimates released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics as part of its quarterly census of employment and wages. So they're not just looking at that one report, the current employment statistics. They're looking at another report put out by Bureau of Labor Statistics, the quarterly census of employment and wages. This program is used to augment the sample data from BLS's first report, the CES report, which stands for the Current Employment Statistics. All right, so they are getting much more accurate information, even though it's taking them a longer time to obtain it. All percentage change calculations are expressed as annualized rates. So now we're on to something. Now, what is this new data actually discovering? Because the mainstream media, CBS, CNBC, all those guys, they're not, this is why you can't watch them, because they don't give you what you're getting here, Zero Hedge, and other places that really can take the time to delve into this and aren't worried about corporate sponsorships. Okay, this next part is really vital. And we had an election, so we saw these economic Potemkin villages built. Oh, everything's fine. There's nothing to worry about. The people that are in power are, they're just knocking it out of the park. Well, in fact, in the aggregate, 10,500 net new jobs were added during the period of March through June of 2022, rather than 1,121,000 jobs estimated by the sum of the states. Okay, so that's the real number. This is phenomenal, because what they're saying is roughly 1% of the jobs we thought we had. We only created about 1% of the jobs we thought we had. Now, you may recall a lot of the reporting that we have done on this pointed out that when you really delved into those reports, a lot of the jobs that were created were second jobs, be they part-time, or many people were going out and they were getting second full-time jobs. Now, they were doing that to make ends meet because of the wage gap between wages and inflation. Okay, so that was telling a more comprehensive story of how bad the economy is when someone has to go out and get a second full-time job and spend 16 waking hours at a job just to be able to buy groceries. Okay, but the administration, they were not, they were not telling you that whole story. They were crowing about, look at all these jobs are created. But then you look down the street and you haven't seen your neighbor in a week because now he's working 2 full-time jobs. Okay, so the other thing about this is that the Republicans are so stupid. They're never going to be able to accurately articulate this and say, because this is going to come out now, that the Congress, the House, is flipping over to the Republicans. Now, once they start to implement their agenda, you're going to get a lot of blowback once these numbers are, revealed as not being so rosy. But they're going to exercise an inability to go back and articulate just what we're doing and say, oh, wait a minute, this started long before we took office. Okay, Republicans are toothless like that. All right, and I know you're asking, well, we're looking at March through June. What about subsequent months? What about now? Okay. Well, we will have to wait at least 3 months to get the June-September data. But using the same approach, which we now know works, this is from Zero Hedge, and which looks at the divergence between household and establishment surveys, it is safe to say that the job overstating, which was 1.5 million, overstated to the tune of 1.5 million jobs in June, according to Zero Hedge, and 1.1 million, according to the Philly Fed. Okay, so both agree, well over a million, has almost doubled to 2.7 million from March to November. Okay, that's the estimate based on the math that Zero Hedge had done to come up with the first figure, which they were accurate about. The only question is what the final, far more accurate Philly Fed estimate will be when it is published in 6 months' time. But an even bigger question is, when does the Bureau of Labor Statistics, here's the thing, when do they realize or admit, because they already realize it, what's going on and engage in a shotgun backward revision of the data? But we also need to ask an even bigger question, a larger question. If the Fed is producing this data, which we told you the Philly Fed looked at it and they came up with the disparity, the 1.1 million job disparity just for the period of March through June, they've hiked interest rates several times since then. But the employment picture is not as rosy as Jerome Powell has stated that it is. So why are they doing that? That seems, there's no way in the world we can accept them saying they don't know, because they do know. They're issuing the report. All right, if we take the 1.1 million and divide it amongst April, May, and June, let's just do that. In April, the official number that was reported was 368,000 jobs gained. In May, it was 386,000 jobs gained. And in June, it was 293,000 jobs gained. So you might as well say roughly 325,000 jobs on average, okay? Now, if you apply the revision of the 1.1 million, then we got a whole different picture here. Instead of gaining 368,000 jobs in April, the country only gained 18,000. Instead of 386,000 in May, the country only gained 36,000. And instead of 293,000 in June, the country only gained 57,000. Why is the Fed acting as if we have many, many more jobs being created than we actually do? That is a big question, and one has to ask, is this intentional in terms of trying to drive up inflation in an environment with rising unemployment? This will absolutely devastate most of the American public, and savings will drive consumers, American citizens, further into debt, which is slavery, that they want you in perpetuity. This is really shocking, guys. So I'm not sure why they're still hiking with this data, but we will continue to report on this, and as developments occur, we will continue to watch it. All right, check this video out. Jerome Powell is stating clearly that he's not done raising rates, that we're going to have a prolonged period of rate increases. And again, think about what we've just gone over. He's doing that. He's making that statement with this evidence that the Fed is producing. It's pretty interesting. Guys, I'll talk to you soon.